Your brain is always just one microscopic blood clot away from completely uninstalling your language pack. Right now, you're reading these words without thinking about it. The letters become meaning. The meaning becomes ideas. And the whole process feels effortless, which is why what happens next is so terrifying. A tiny malfunction inside a hidden blood vessel. That's it. No explosion, no dramatic warning, just one small glitch. And suddenly, every word around you becomes useless. Your phone, street signs, books, text messages, even your own name. The letters are still there, but the meaning is gone. Your first instinct is to blame the screen, but then you look away. The cereal box on the table, the label on a water bottle, the book sitting on a shelf. Same problem. That's when the terrifying realization hits. Nothing is wrong with the world around you. The software inside your skull just crashed, and somehow, it gets even stranger. Because despite being unable to read a single word, you can still write them perfectly. You can write a sentence, sign your name, or fill an entire page with flawless handwriting. But the exact millisecond you look down at your own words, you have absolutely no idea what they say. It sounds impossible, like a bug from a science fiction movie, but it's real, and it reveals one of the strangest secrets hidden inside the human brain. A condition so bizarre that it forced neuroscientists to rethink what reading actually is, and it all starts with a man who discovered that writing and reading are not the same thing at all. If this nightmare sounds too absurd to be real, it's because our logic tells us that reading and writing are the exact same thing. But history proved us wrong more than a century ago. In 1892, a brilliant French neurologist named Joseph Jules Dejerine met a patient who lived this exact, impossible reality. The man was a wealthy textile merchant named Monsieur C, a man who built his entire empire on contracts, numbers, and ledger books. One morning, he opened his favorite book, and the pages had turned into a visual soup of meaningless squiggles. He rushed to Dr. Dejerine. The doctor was deeply baffled. He tested the merchant's eyesight. It was flawless. He tested his intelligence. The man was sharp as a knife. So Dejerine handed him a pen. The merchant immediately sat down and wrote a beautiful, complex business letter with 0 errors. But when the doctor asked him to read his own letter back out loud, Monsieur C just stared at the paper blankly. He was completely blind to his own thoughts. For decades, people thought these patients were just faking it, like a highly committed prank to escape taxes. But the truth was far deeper. Dr. Dejerine had just discovered a medical anomaly called Pure Alexia. And to understand why the human brain can write but cannot read, we have to look at how we evolved. Biologically speaking, your brain flat out didn't want you to read. Look at you right now, reading these words. Your brain thinks you're just showing off. Human beings were never evolved for literacy. We invented spoken language tens of thousands of years ago. That part is natural. Your brain comes out of the womb pre-installed with the hardware to hear and speak. But reading? Reading is a very recent, highly artificial software update. We only invented text a few thousand years ago. And because evolution moves at a snail's pace, your brain didn't have time to grow a reading department. So it had to run a pirated software hack. It took ancient visual survival tools, the pathways your ancestors used to trace animal tracks in the dirt and spot predators, and it hijacked them. It jerry-rigged a temporary neural bridge to force those survival tools to talk to your language department. Every time you read a text message, you are running an unstable, unauthorized patch on an ancient biological computer. Because this reading system is just an unstable pirate patch, it has a very specific structural weak point where it easily breaks. To understand this break, look at what you are doing right now. Your eyes are taking a photograph of these words and sending it to the back of your head, your visual department. But that department is completely illiterate. It doesn't know language. Normally, that temporary neural bridge ships that image across your skull to your language department to decode it. But in a Pure Alexia patient, that bridge is entirely gone. The visual package is permanently stranded in the wrong room. Your brain is staring directly at the data, but it has lost the password to unpack the file. But writing? Writing runs on a completely different, independent outbound conveyor belt. It moves from your thoughts straight down your arm to your fingers, completely bypassing your eyes. An Alexia patient can close their eyes and write a complex essay because the machinery moving the pen is perfectly intact. But the absolute second they open their eyes to read it, they hit the broken bridge. They become total strangers to their own creation. And here is the most terrifying part. It doesn't take a dramatic car crash to blow up this neural bridge. It takes something silent, invisible, and completely random. It takes a microscopic blood clot, a tiny rogue particle smaller than a grain of sand, cruising through your bloodstream. If it gets stuck in one fragile pipe at the back of your head due to modern chronic stress, high blood pressure, or just random bad luck, boom, the patch crashes. This is caused by a stroke, which means anyone sitting on their couch right now is on the waiting list. You could be perfectly healthy today, and a silent 1 millimeter blockage tonight changes your life forever. And the treatment for this broken highway? There is no magic pill. The brain tissue is dead. The only way out is to act like a toddler again. You have to spend months training your brain to trace letters with your fingers or spell them out loud letter by letter. You are forcing your ears to sneak the data into the language office through the back door. It's like trying to rebuild a highway using a spoon. Most patients never fully recover their speed. They are permanently slowed down, deciphering their world like a painful puzzle. But here is where this bug turns into a dark comedy. Your brain decides to delete your language pack, but completely leaves your banking app untouched. It wipes out words but leaves numbers alone. Imagine the absolute madness. You open your mailbox and find an official government letter. You pull out the paper and the text looks like a cursed alien scroll. You can't read the name of the tribunal, you can't read the code of the violation, you can't even read your own name. But then your eyes drift to the bottom right corner, to the exact number written in bold red ink. $250. Boom. You can read that instantly with zero hesitation. Your brain looks at the paper and says, I have absolutely no idea what crime we just committed. But we are broke. Why? Because from an evolutionary standpoint, your brain processes abstract symbols like numbers in a completely different sector than alphabetic text. The mathematical brain runs on a completely separate highway. This means an Alexia patient can look at a ticket and tell you exactly how much money they have to pay the government down to the last cent. But if you ask them why they got the ticket, or who signed it, they see nothing but visual noise. They can count the fine, but they can't read the law. And because the human mind hates being humiliated by a microscopic blood cell, patients have to use the most ridiculous low-tech hack just to read a text message. Since the visual bridge is dead, your eyes are officially just cosmetic ornaments on your face. They see the word, but they can't process it. So patients have to trick the system using their fingers. If an Alexia patient looks at the word cat on a screen, they see absolute nonsense. But if they take their index finger and physically trace the letters CAT on a table or in the air, a miracle happens. The movement triggers the motor cortex, which sneaks the data into the language department through the back door, completely bypassing the broken visual bridge. Think about how absurd this looks in public. To read a simple menu or a WhatsApp message, the patient has to stand there, aggressively drawing letters in the air like a budget wizard casting a very weak spell. They can read, but only if they dance with their fingers first. Which brings us to the ultimate, hilarious truth about the human body. We like to think of ourselves as the peak of evolution, the masters of the universe. But the reality is, your entire conscious existence is running on a beautifully glitched system. If a microscopic blood cell, smaller than a grain of sand, can instantly turn your eyes into useless decorations. If it can force you to count the fine on a ticket while having absolutely no idea what law you broke, and if your only defense mechanism against a brain glitch is to stand in public, aggressively waving your fingers like a budget wizard casting a very weak spell, then you are not the boss of your brain. You are just a passenger in a vehicle that is held together by absolute chaos. So the next time you open your phone to read a message, take a second to thank that tiny highway at the back of your skull, because everything is running perfectly fine right now. But as Monsieur C found out on that quiet morning in 1892, you are always just one silent rogue blood cell away from losing your language pack forever, and becoming a complete stranger to your own handwriting. Stay safe, and maybe stop speeding.